This is my 2024 Ducati Diavel V4, and it's looking great, but we're still missing the entire front end, and we may have gotten scammed. We have taken this motorcycle from looking like a piece of scrap metal in need of major repair, with issues galore and hidden damages, to a beautiful piece of art, in my opinion. But one question still remains. Where is my front suspension? Let's rewind back for a few seconds, back to what is now a few months ago, when we first found out the forks on this bike were bent. That was a really tough moment for me. Those forks were new to this model, and they were a 30mm fork, which is a very rare fork for motorcycles in general. And so finding these parts was essentially non-existent. But I was lucky enough to find a frame shop that specialized in both frame repair and fork repair. And I contacted them and had a quick communication of what the damage looked like, sent them photos of everything, and they gave me the green light to send off all my parts to them for them to repair them. So because of that, I packed up all of the pieces of the front end, boxed them up, and shipped them out from here in South Carolina all the way out to Washington, where this frame shop is currently. Now, the owner of the shop did let me know that he had his trip planned and was going to be out of town for a little bit, so I wasn't expecting an overnight job, and I understand that with specialized projects like these, they take time. But here's where things started to get frustrating. Communication started to slip. And in fact, it took me reaching out, pounding them with phone calls and emails. Look, I respect skilled craftsmen, and I 100% understand if personal problems or personal things come up, let me know that it's gonna take a certain amount of time. And I'm okay with that. So that's where we are right now. We still have no front end. It's still hanging on this rig-a-majig that we made a few months ago, but we are gonna continue moving forward. I'll keep you posted. Hopefully, we'll have some good news, maybe even by the end of this episode. Who knows? We'll find out as I continue calling. Now, while we wait and pray that this front end will return to us, there are a few other things that we can do to this motorcycle. One of them being the headlight, which is obviously not there right now, but that had been scuffed up, that had been cracked when it was in an accident, so we need to fix that up. We also have some wiring issues here at the front as well for the horn, which I thought I had fixed up in the previous episode, but then in the last episode figured out that my fixes did not hold well. We'll have to go about fixing those the right way this time. And then there's some other issues that we can look into as well. One of them is behind this front fairing right here on the radiator itself. There's a spot where we had to, in a previous episode again, repair that piece, but we just kind of left it because I didn't know, really at the time I thought that it would be hidden behind all the fairings and you would never see it. Well, you do see it. And so this right here is just ugly, and it should be a fairly easy thing to fix. Really, it's just a little bit of sanding, maybe a little bit of matte paint, and then that should be fairly hidden enough for it to be passable for the naked eye, and that's good enough for me. Another piece that we need to fix is on, again, this side of the motorcycle, and it is this brake right here. Now, the brake doesn't look too bad. It's actually not bad at all, but when the bike was in an accident, it got bent just ever so slightly into the bike. And so to make it easier on myself and any future rider riding this motorcycle, now have to fish for the brake. It should be where it's supposed to be all the time. So we're gonna go ahead, pull that off, bend it back into place, slap it back on the bike, and call it a day. All right, now that we are moving forward, there are some things we can do which are smaller, but still important. One of them being this headlight. I tested this headlight when we first got the motorcycle, perfect condition, except for some pretty major scuffage here. So that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna sand this down and get this looking brand new once again. So that's what we're gonna be working on. All right, so we're gonna start with some 800, just to see if we can get down these really big areas. As I'm sanding it, it doesn't seem to feel very deep, which is a really good sign. Now that I've been hitting with higher grit sandpaper, I'm at 1500 right now. It is really foggy still, obviously compared to the untouched side, but it is getting much clearer. You can see these stress fractures here. I don't love those. I'm gonna try to figure out how I can go about getting those filled in, or what's the best course of action here. I like the progress so far, so we'll keep going and see what we can do. All right, so off camera, what I did with the headlight is I actually added some very clear epoxy resin to the areas that were like deeply scratched or cracked. There were stress fractures there. So we added some epoxy resin. And so now what I want to do is obviously we need to sand those areas down and get those nice and flat and see if that helped out at all. I'm not sure if it did, but we're gonna check it out. We're gonna try it out and see. So right now the headlight, it has a few scratches still in it, but they're good enough for me. The issue right now is I'm trying to figure out whether to go one of two ways. One being a repair kit. It'll have some sort of a filament that will go over and protect the headlight, or to go a full 2K clear coat route, which a lot of people have steered away from that, but we'll see. I'm really happy with where this is right now. We're gonna go the lesser of two evils, which is the repair kit. And then if that doesn't do exactly what I'm looking for, then we will upgrade to the 2K clear coat. All right, now that we've gotten this headlight to a really good state where the scratches on it are pretty much gone, we're gonna move on to the next step, which is introducing this, which is 3M's Ultra Headlight Restoration Kit. Not sponsored by them, but it seemed like a good deal. I really like the brand 3M, and so this seemed like a good option to finish off this headlight. Now in this kit are a couple of things that are gonna be really helpful to me in this process, which is the disc drill adapter, which is gonna allow me to use a drill instead of hand sanding everything, the sanding discs, which range from 500 grit to around 3000 grit, and then finally the clear coat. The clear coat's gonna be the final step of this process, and it's gonna make my life a whole lot easier and really get this headlight in tip-top shape. And because we've already sanded this down to around 1500, I think I'm gonna start with a higher grit sandpaper to begin with, and then use that over all the areas we've done so far, get this to a really, really, really fine state, and then go from there. Boy, that's looking really nice. This is working like a charm. The only issue I'm having is that you can see where the old clear coat or the old coating on this headlight stops and has been sanded away because of all those scratches and the repair work that we've been doing so far. And I'm not sure that the clear coat that we have is gonna mask that. So there's a line right here that you can just see where the old coating goes away and remains. And so I don't know if that's gonna come back, so we may have to test it. I don't like it, but we'll see. Just kidding. We are definitely not leaving that to chance. So let's go ahead and sand the whole thing. And thanks to that, we've gotten rid of those differences and have this looking very nice, if I do say so myself. Now, the last step in this process is adding the clear coat. First, we need to make sure the edges are all taped up so that the clear coat doesn't run over to the plastic areas of this headlight. And then we can add the first application of the clear coat using these wipes. This was a little bit odd for me. I'm more used to the clear coat being a spray, but this seemed to do a really good job. And then finally, the second and last application. And just like that, 24 hours later, we have a fantastic result. I am blown away with how good this has turned out. Admittedly, it's still not perfect, but it is 1,000 times better than it was before. Check this out. All right, it's been a little bit since I have worked on the Radiator, but I'm back at it. It is cold outside now. Let's jump back on the Radiator, see if we can get this thing finished up, and then that'll be good to go from there. All right, it's not perfect just yet, but it's gotten a ton better looking. But here's what it looks like right now. So you can see there's definitely some scuffage still, but we've sanded it down a good bit. And from a distance, it looks really nice and flat. All right, wrapped up sanding. I take that back for now, actually. So what I did was I actually put some spot putty on that area to fill in the kind of minor holes and cracks. And this is what it looks like real quick. So this is what it looks like right now before sanding. And then hopefully after the final stage sanding, airplane going overhead, it'll be really, really nice and smooth, be able to put a layer of paint on that, so you shouldn't be able to tell, and if you do, it's very minor. Hopefully it should look really good after this. All right, as we're waiting for that to dry, I do have to replace this backlight. I was able to source one on eBay, but the wires are not connected to anything, so we gotta do a little bit more wiring. Let's take this one off, see what the wiring looks like on this one, see how to replace or to adjust this one here, and then swap the two. So on this back headlight, there are 2 bolts holding it in right there. All right, so I don't have any specialty tools to get in here, but let's see, can we turn it this way? Ah, there we go. So that's loose, good. Now we just gotta get the bottom one. But how is the question of the ages? Just need it loose. Just need it loose, that's all I need, that's all I want. I want it loose. Just a wee bit. All right, needle nose pliers, just to try to get this thing moving. Get it loose, and then, oh, I mangled that nut. But she is coming loose. Oh. Okay, that's good. And we just gotta get the wire. All right, we have the wiring for the right, the left. Let's go ahead and, well, do we even need to? We just go zip, if we can. There we go. Good. Awesome. Very cool. Tail lights out. I got the wirings, we're gonna use this, and we'll repin the new one. Now, it didn't film me doing the wiring for this light. We've gone through a bunch of wiring before, and it's really the same thing I did in the past, which is just cutting off the old wires, splicing in the new wire, and then attaching it with some of that heat shrink soldering kits that we've seen before. So same thing, I'll show you that now, and then we're gonna tape that up and put it back on the motorcycle. All right, what we were able to do is we were able to use this broken wire, cut off the excess to the wiring here, which is this part of the wire here. And then I was able to splice together the two using these heat shrink soldering kits. So now I just need to tape this up so that way it's not exposed, and then we can go from there. All right, now we just gotta feed the wire back in here, just like it was before. Easier said than done. All right, maybe it'd be better to take the bolts off of these while we're here. And to buckle my shoe, there we go. Just so you can see, there's a little hook in here where the wire should sit over the top of them. See, these are open here. I taped these up on this side just so they're not in the elements, but we gotta get the wires over that little hook. All right, right, sitting just like that. So this is where it attaches. Push that up out of the way for a second. This goes under here. Oh, that would have been smart. All right, well, I'm gonna do what I didn't want to do in the very beginning, but do that, this, goes like this, goes like that. Okay, let's get my zip tie. Grab that sucker. What? Nailed it. Okay, good. Little snip. Clean that up a little bit so you don't cut yourself every time you get in there. All right, let's turn this motorcycle on real quick. See if this backlight fires up and it's working, and go from there. All right. Ah, look at that. Working lights. Very cool. All right, that's one more smaller job done, out of the way, a little bit of wiring. That's golden. It is the OEM rear that I'm not a huge fan of, but to buy and replace that, we're creeping very quickly towards my budget. If we get to the point where we have the finances to upgrade and to do some really cool things to it, we'll do that for sure. But for right now, we wanted to just get it to the point where it's fixed and it's working. All right, we are gonna knock down this spot putty so that way we can get this nice and smooth. And then hopefully after that, we can move on to getting this nice and sprayed in. It is freezing outside, so I may hold off on the spray, but we'll see. Maybe we can heat up the garage a little bit and get this done. All right, that's looking really good. I'm gonna wait to get a heater out here so we can heat up the space. That way the spray paint isn't going on when it's like 30 degrees outside. So that'll come next. All right, I think what I would like to do today is get that spray paint in for that inner radiator plastic part. But as you can see outside, it is snowing, and that means it is freezing outside. But I do have a little space heater. So we're gonna make it work. Make sure the area is warm enough for the paint to work and get this job done. First thing we need to do is get this area all covered up. That way the area that needs to get paint is getting paint. And what I'm gonna be using to spray this in is trim and bumper paint. I figured that's gonna be probably the closest bet to what the OEM plastic would look like. A more plasticky, not glossy, not matte look, but just a trim look. All right, we'll come in with coat number 2. All right, let's see if we can look at this. Some light on it. There's definitely some marks in there still. It's not perfect, but it is much better than what it was before. So this is looking pretty good. Oh. One of the final things that we can do that's not having to deal with the front end of this motorcycle is this brake right here. And as you can kind of see, hopefully a little bit, it's a little bit bent up and in. And it looks like it's just bent right here. You can even see a little bit of the metal stressed here, but that's easy enough. We can bend that back into place. It shouldn't be that hard, but I do want to take it off the motorcycle before I start bending it. It's just gonna make my life a little bit easier, I think. And to do that, there's a couple of bolts here and here. They're gonna remove it completely, and that should do it. So let's go ahead and take this brake off, bend it back into place, and then slap it back on the bike. I'm gonna go ahead and start by removing this plate here. This is a protector shield for all the components behind here for while you're riding, but it's a little bit in the way. I just wanna make sure that we're not scuffing this up anymore. There's a little bit of scuff right here, so I don't wanna scuff it any more than is already scuffed. So we'll go ahead and take this off. Well, all right, well, everything back here looks nice. You know what, while we're here, let's give this a little spritz and then clean that up. I'll clean that off. Put some new Loctite on there. Nice and loose, great. Now we just have to get this bad boy out. All right, so we have a T30 for here. This looks like it's gonna be a T40. Yeah, that's good. All right. Ooh, I bet you the bolt is warped on this. Yeah, this bolt here is definitely warped. It's not, I mean, it's not awful, but it's enough for it to obviously not be useful for us anymore. So I'll have to get a new bolt for the brake, and having taken off the brake itself, again, it doesn't look too terrible. I can probably bend that back down. This brake lever is probably around $80, so I'm trying to decide if it's worth it. We'll see. But for now, it is off the bike and we can move forward with trying to either replace it or to fix it. All right, we're back on this brake here, and I've already tried using a vise, which is here, and broke the vise. So just trying to manhandle this and bend it back into place hasn't worked. So that's why we're gonna use the good old torch method, get this as hot as we can, and then try to manipulate it back into place. That's the plan for right now. If that doesn't work, then we'll just order a new one directly from Ducati. They're not terribly expensive. I would rather not do that, but it is what it is. So we'll probably have to repaint this, but that's kind of the least of my problems right now. So let's heat this up and try to bend it back in place. I don't know necessarily how to like hold on to this without destroying it here. Here I'm not as worried about. It's your foot peg, so it's not supposed to look like anything special, but I don't know. Oh, it's moving. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, that moved a good bit. All right, so we got this brake nice and in line. So now that it's in a better place to use it, now that it's nice and straight, we can put it back on the motorcycle. So we have the main bolt here with the pre-added thread lock. Then you add some rubber. Then you add these rubber, add there. And then after you get this bolt in, and then one of these rubber bushings will go to fit right in there. Then we have the spring over the brake, and last but not least, we have the washer. There we go. All right, let's torque this down. And then we should be all set. All right, now that this brake is back on the motorcycle, we can move on and tackle some bigger and better things. It's here! The front suspension for this motorcycle is finally back. It has been months. And as you've seen in the beginning of this episode, there is a long story about this front suspension. I haven't opened it yet. I'm actually a little bit nervous to open it and see what it looks like, but we do have it here. We're gonna open it together. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Oh well. Woo. And there it is. She is back. Well, now that it's here, all that's left is putting this whole front suspension back on the motorcycle. But we're gonna save that for next time. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all the love and support so far. If you haven't followed the channel just yet, if you want to, go ahead and do that. Drop me a follow, like this video, go back and watch the other ones if you haven't just yet. It's been a lot of fun, and we have more to come. So, thank you again. We'll see you next time. Bye.